Welcome back to Cape Ann today, folks. As always, we are joined by a reporter from the Gloucester Daily Times, and we're happy to have Ethan Foreman make his Cape Ann Today debut with us. How are you, Ethan?
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah,
It's great to have you, Ethan. It's we miss Taylor. We love Taylor, but I think this is going to be a great collaboration.
Taylor is a national treasure. She sat next to me when she was a cub reporter, and wonderful, wonderful reporter, wonderful writer. So, yeah.
Well,
do you feel settled in yet?
Excuse me?
Do you feel settled in yet?
No.
No.
That's for sure.
I've been reading your stories for the past 2 weeks, and I think you're doing a great job. So
thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah.
That means a lot.
Yeah, it does.
Congratulations, Ethan. Thanks for joining us. And so right off the bat, you joined the Gloucester Times and you go right into a big inauguration day at City Hall.
Yeah, it was a very difficult transition. Talking about the former mayor and the new mayor, and really coming up to speed on both of them. But I think the mayor wanted with the inaugural to sort of turn the page on all that has been going on. Not to say anything about the past administration, but to sort of say what he wanted to accomplish in his term. And his focus to us was that he's got 2 years. He's got 22 months until the next election, and he wants to try to build a foundation for what's to come. And I thought that was very interesting, that this idea that the sense of time, and he's talking about how he's going to wake up every morning for the next 729 days or whatever it was, with the goal of making Gloucester a better place tomorrow than it is today. So he's very focused on that, and I thought that was that message really resonated with the audience, and there.
And tell us what the scene felt like, Ethan, because it was the first inauguration within the pandemic. The last one was pre-pandemic. So tell us just what it felt like in there.
Well, I used to write for the Salem News, and I covered the inaugural for the city of Peabody a few years ago. And there you had a lot of pomp and circumstance. You had people coming in, a lot of people in the audience. And here you didn't have that. You had chairs spaced out within the auditorium. The elected officials were seated up on the stage, and they had masks. And the idea was that the elected officials could only bring their immediate family, and there were empty chairs. I think really people, took this the Omicron spread or whatever it is very seriously. There was really no food. The party was canceled. They were going to have an inaugural party. That was canceled. The foods, the cookies are very delicious cookies. I wish I knew where they came from. Packaged, little bottles of water. I mean, it was very subdued, and I found that really odd. And one of the things I wanted to make note of, there was a performer there called the Island Cowboy.
Oh yeah, Jerome.
And I have never seen a person hold a room the way he did. I mean, this is a big inaugural, and he was very subdued, doing some Willie Nelson. Then he played "Here Comes the Sun." Turns out to be Mayor Greg Verger's favorite song, as he noted. And I thought that was a real understated touch, but I really was impressed by the way he held the room and the respect that people had for him. You don't really usually hear Willie Nelson at an inaugural. You usually hear pomp and circumstance or something more official. Obviously, you can't have, say, a high school band. You can't have the Gloucester High band or singers performing. So it was odd, but it was quite good.
Yeah, you can follow John at hashtag Island Cowboy. Legit, he uses that all the time. He's a buddy of mine. So
my understanding from him, he was like, "I have to speak to you because I'm having a new record coming out." And boy, I would love to interview him. He really is a very talented individual, and really was a wonderful presence and a nice touch, understated touch. And of course, Greg is a musician as well. A bass player and a guitar player, has a podcast called Unfinished Music. So really a guy who seems to be really reaching for something, so I was really impressed.
Yeah. Ethan, have you got a vibe at all on how the transition has gone? Has it been a smooth one? Because we've talked to Virga's team and they feel pretty happy with how the process has been going.
Honestly, I don't. I have been really busy. I feel like I come to work every day and I'm in a sprint.
Yeah.
And, yesterday I was covering this, unfortunate passing of a Gloucester High student and the City Council's Planning and Development Committee. And that's what my days have been like. So I don't really have a handle. And I have reached out to his campaign spokesperson.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like a story about, how's your first 10 days or how's your first week gone? It's a big deal. You have a new mayor for the first time in 7 years. And I don't think it's really fair or to say, how are things going? You're just basically saying, what are you
up against now? Right.
What's up against? It's really daunting. So I look forward to meeting with him again and in following up.
Great. So you just touched upon it. Do you want to talk some more about zoning and the latest there that you've been working on?
Yeah, so when I arrived, I started receiving letters from residents concerned about the process before the planning board on zoning. And there was concern about, I think it's just boils down to a concern about overdevelopment in various neighborhoods. Now, I'm not as well versed to say which neighborhood might be impacted, which may not. But I really feel like that's the tone. The planning board process was public. And since it was before my time, I really don't have any comment on whether it was attended or well attended. I don't know. But it seemed like from the information I've read and from the presentation, really detailed presentation by the planning director last night, that they really have thought a lot of things through, but they haven't thought other things through, because if you're talking about converting a single family to a 3-family or a 2-family house, where's that person going to park? Questions that are more toward zoning, the zoning board, maybe than the planning board trying to craft zoning, if you know what I'm saying. So a lot of the practical ideas that people are talking about, I think Councilor Tracy O'Neill for Ward 2 was concerned about infrastructure. The big picture is, if you're going to have all these, 100 more units in the city, how is the city's infrastructure going to handle it? So it was a really good presentation. I was not able to capture the questions that came from the audience. I did listen to some of them afterwards, and they were very respectful, and they were kind of concerned about having too much development. What do some of these changes in height might mean for obstructing views, say? Buildings going to be too tall in the downtown. And the planning director was basically saying, look, we've approved, 45 feet heights in what we've already approved.
Right.
So we'll see whether all of these 9 measures, dimensional changes, changes in the number of units you can build on a lot, whether they're going to all pass. It's going to be up to the city council eventually. Right now, it's in that sort of chrysalis phase before planning and development. It's a subcommittee. They'll be working on it over the next few months. Then it goes to a public hearing, and that's really when the residents can really weigh in.
Ethan, I was following your story, which I thought was really well written, and I've seen this a couple of times. These districts designated in the city R5 or R30, and maybe I'm getting those numbers wrong. What are the main areas that would be impacted by these zoning changes? Can you just tell me that?
Well, unfortunately, I don't really know enough about the city and its geography to say where things would happen. But from memory, from what happened last night, you are talking, one of the bigger, I think, impact areas would be the neighborhoods around the downtown. The heights in the central business district would go up to 45 feet. But one of the things that they're talking about is in the neighborhoods around Washington Street out to 128, allow more units. So a single family could perhaps go up to a 3-family. And you would allow the roof lines to go up to 35 feet to accommodate that extra unit. You could, put a dormer in or braves the roof line. And I think that might be the central nub, because I don't think anyone's going to really care in sort of the more outlying areas, on 2-acre lots, if somebody is allowed to build a carriage house. I don't think that's going to be, I don't know, unless the neighborhood says we don't want such density. I really think that the downtown, and it's, I don't want to disparage it, but it's bric-a-brac. There's houses next to businesses. And I think really that might be, at least from what I heard last night, some of the discussion moving forward.
Right. So it's mostly in the downtown, more densely populated areas. Yeah.
Yeah. Where you're going to have more density. And then, what is that going to mean?
Okay.
Well,
What do you think?
there's a lot to follow there, and we'll keep. And I actually spoke with Val Gilman earlier this week, on the standing committee, and I asked her if when the last time these kinds of zoning changes had been made in the city, and she couldn't remember. So it's a big deal. One
of the things that they're doing, which I think is interesting, is sometimes in the city of Peabody, and I'll go back to that because it's a city that's sort of comparable. They would, if they wanted to do a zoning change, they would layer it onto like properties along Route 1, or properties near the North Shore Mall as a pilot. This complete zoning change for the entire city. And we'll see what shakes out. But I really do think it's a lot of thought's gone into it, and a lot of it, of course, stems from the city's housing production plan, which wasn't just about affordable housing, but it was for housing in general, to create more housing. There's a housing crisis in the city of Gloucester.
Right. And for older people, for seniors too, you're saying, your article said, right?
They're thinking that the population is, Greg had said that statistics show Gloucester's population is aging, and they need a various types of household formation is smaller. Families aren't as big, maybe. So you have various types of household formation. So it's not a one size fits all. And I think in some ways this is kind of, it's kind of really cool. I mean, I can get another unit in my house. I can build another carriage house on my property, create more units, create more housing, instead of building, big multifamilies. Greg Verger said it as an inaugural. They're not going to be able to build their way out of the housing crisis. So what do you have to do? Maybe you make do with what you have.
Interesting. Yep. And he has a realtor's background as well. Okay. Thanks for that, Ethan. And as we continue to navigate through this never-ending pandemic, the community has suffered another loss.
Yeah, I mean, it was really tragic. I mean, we heard that we've heard from the superintendent had alerted us to a young man, Kurt Ryan, had passed away, and we didn't know how he had passed away. And I do know that in my short time here, that the community has been dealing with some deaths of young people. We didn't know what this was about. And then we were alerted by the family there was a GoFundMe, and he had passed away from complications from COVID-19. It's really, really tragic for somebody so young and really well-liked kid. It's a tragedy for this family and for the community.
I loved hearing about his gaming interests, how he was just like such an avid gamer, right?
And it's interesting because I have a kid who's an avid gamer as well. You don't just make friends in the community; you make friends all over the world. There's people that knew this young man and are mourning his loss. And had also been part of a program with the police department called SRO Gaming to sort of reach young people during the pandemic. And I think an initiative that's continuing on as well. So yeah, he touched a lot of people. He may not have been on the football team, or he may not have been super active that way, but he touched a lot of people, and had an effect. So it's a tragic loss.
And so young. Oh.
Yeah. Well, we're definitely thinking of the Ryan family and everyone else affected
Right.
by Omicron and the pandemic right now. Unbelievable stuff. So, Ethan Foreman, thanks so much for your time. We appreciate your work. Welcome aboard. We hope you're getting settled in sooner than later, and we'll chat with you next week.
Thank you very much, Corey. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you, Ethan. Wish we could have coffee together, but sometime we will.
Here, I got my dunks right here. See?
All right. All right.
Interested in a sponsorship? Email sponsor@1623studios.org to learn more.